It started with 3 knocks, heavy, deliberate, and out of place. Monique Harris froze mid-chop, the smell of onions filling her Arizona kitchen. The evening sun painted everything gold, and for a moment life felt peaceful, until that knock broke it. She wiped her hands, peeked out the window, and saw a white police cruiser idling at the curb. 2 officers stood at her porch, stiff, uniformed, authoritative. Her heart thudded, not in guilt but confusion. She hadn't done anything wrong. She opened the door halfway, her voice steady. "Good afternoon, officers. Can I help you?" The taller one cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we received a call from your homeowners association. Report of a disturbance and possible noncompliance." Monique frowned. "A disturbance? I've been home all day. The only thing disturbing this house is dinner." The younger officer shifted awkwardly, gesturing toward the porch rail where a small flag fluttered in the breeze. White cloth, pink and gold letters spelling "Love Lives Here." "They said you refused to remove unauthorized signage." Monique stared, incredulous. "You're here because of flag?" Neither man spoke. Silence answered for them. "That flag's been there for weeks," she said. "It's not political. It's my grandmother's saying." "We're just following up on a report," the older officer muttered. "And what does the report say?" she asked. "That a nurse is committing crimes of compassion?" The younger one blushed and looked down. Inside, the scent of thyme and garlic lingered as Monique held herself tall. She remembered the letter she received 3 days ago. Notice of violation. Unauthorized exterior display. Signed Richard Caldwell, President. She'd shrugged it off then. Her husband Derek had told her, "It's just Caldwell being Caldwell. Guy thinks he's mayor of this subdivision." But now the consequences were at her door in full uniform. She exhaled. "Officers, with all due respect, this is absurd." Before they could respond, a door creaked open inside. "Monique, everything okay?" A deep, steady voice filled the hallway. Derek Harris stepped into view, still in his dark blue police uniform, badge glinting in the sunlight. The officers froze. "Captain Harris," the older one stammered. "We didn't realize this was your residence." Derek's expression didn't change. "Clearly. So why are you questioning my wife about a flag that says Love Lives Here?" The air thickened. One officer swallowed hard. Report said hostile resident, refusing compliance. Monique's tone sharpened. "Hostile? I haven't spoken to anyone from the HOA." Derek's voice dropped, calm but steel-edged. "Then someone lied, and I'll be requesting a copy of that report." The officers exchanged a glance, muttered apologies, and retreated down the walkway. When the cruiser pulled off, Monique leaned against the door, her hands trembling. Derek rested his hand on her shoulder. "They really called the police over a flag." She shook her head. "They didn't call about a flag. They called about me." Across the street, a curtain shifted. Someone was watching. Word would spread before nightfall. That evening, as Monique turned off the stove, she stared at the folded violation letter. "Since when is love unauthorized?" she whispered. 3 streets over, Richard Caldwell sat in his office, surrounded by HOA binders. His title, President, was his power. He'd filed complaints against the Harrises before, and each one had been dismissed. But this time, he wanted to make an example. "If she won't comply," he told his board, "we'll escalate." He wrote the police report himself, claiming she'd been confrontational. He didn't need truth. He needed control. Days passed. Monique's story spread to the neighborhood chat like wildfire. Rumors, whispers, twisted versions of what happened. When she walked outside, eyes followed her, some sympathetic, others judging. She tried to ignore it, until one morning she found a note under her doormat. It read, "Thank you for standing up. Some of us needed that." She slipped it into her pocket, like a secret. Meanwhile, Caldwell was losing control. Complaints poured in, neighbors questioning his leadership, accusing him of bias. Even his board began to waver. One woman, Joyce Miller, confronted him. "It's just a flag, Richard." He scowled. "It's about order." "No," she said softly. "It's about power." At home, Monique's daughter Layla brought more news. "Mom, There's a video of Dad shutting down the HOA president. It's online. Monique blinked. Video? Yeah, it's going viral. Everyone's talking about how you stood your ground. Derek chuckled quietly. Guess the neighborhood's famous now. But Monique wasn't sure fame was what she wanted. The next day, she received an email from a local reporter, Nia Freeman. "We'd love to interview you about what happened." It said. Monique hesitated. She wasn't an activist. She just wanted peace. But Derek reminded her, peace doesn't come from silence. So she agreed. 2 days later, Nia stood on their porch, cameras rolling. "Mrs. Harris," she said gently, "why didn't you take the flag down?" Monique looked into the lens, her grandmother's words waving softly behind her. "Because love shouldn't need permission," she said. The interview aired that evening, and everything changed. Social media lit up. Hashtag spread. Hashtag love lives here. Hashtag stand with Monique. Across the country, people share their own HOA stories, their own battles with prejudice hidden behind policy. At the next board meeting, the pressure was undeniable. Joy spoke first. "Richard, you've turned this neighborhood into a headline." He snapped, "I did what the bylaws require." "No," she said, "you did what your pride required." The board voted. Caldwell was out. News spread quickly. When Derek came home that night, he grinned. He resigned. Monique didn't smile, just exhaled. Good. Maybe now we can breathe. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal, though it wasn't the same kind of normal as before. Neighbors who once stayed silent now waved. Flags began appearing on other porches. Hope lives here. Peace lives here. One afternoon, Mrs. Daniels, the elderly woman from down the street, arrived with cookies. "Thank you," she said. "My grandson saw your story. He asked why anyone would call the police over kindness. I didn't have an answer." Monique smiled softly. "Maybe now you do." Months later, the HOA rewrote its rules under Joyce's leadership. The clause on unauthorized displays was replaced with one simple sentence. Residents may express messages of love or unity without restriction. Monique framed that page and hung it by her door. She went back to work, saving lives as she always had, but now something inside her was lighter. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, she sat on the porch beside Derek, watching the breeze ripple the flag. "Funny," he said, "something so small started all this." She smiled. "That's the thing about small things. They expose big truths." The flag fluttered, edges frayed but proud. Across town, Richard Caldwell packed boxes, his empire of rules dismantled. For the first time, he saw himself clearly, not as a leader, but as a man undone by his own arrogance. Monique didn't celebrate. She simply whispered, "We didn't win. We just made them see." When Layla later told her that other families were hanging similar flags across the country, Monique just smiled. Guess love really does live everywhere. That night, the porch light flickered softly as the wind stirred the words once more, "Love lives here." And for the first time in a long time, it truly did. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that matter. And let's keep the conversation going.